Introduce Olympic gold medalist and British cycling policy advisor, Chris Boardman.
Thank you. I'm taking a risk here and going completely electronic. Can you advance that for me? Thank you. Just bring up this picture that kindly showed you 10 minutes early.
Sorry about that, yes.
Whenever I come to London, I walk everywhere, and I was walking out to XL actually last year, and it's a marvellous walk, and I came across this corner, and some of you I've worked with before might have seen this picture, because I thought this is absolutely perfect. This picture encapsulates human beings. This is how we make our decisions, because we like to think that we make decisions based on logic and common sense and statistics. We don't. We do the easiest thing for us right now, today. And even if it's not good for us in the long term, even the short term, if it's to our own detriment, we will still take the easiest decision. Well, what's my evidence for drawing a conclusion like that, particularly as it pertains to what we're here for today? Well, there's plenty. 66% of our journeys in the UK are less than 5 miles. That's a leisurely 25-minute bike ride. We know congestion is intolerable. We know that we aren't meeting emissions targets. We know there are 35,000 deaths a year directly related to obesity at a cost of over $5 billion to the NHS. And that doesn't even touch on deaths related directly to pollution. We know that cycling can have a positive impact on all of those areas. In fact, a study by the London School of Economics showed that all wrapped together, every regular cyclist, and that's 3 times a week, contributes £590 a year to the UK economy. It's the only form of mechanised transport that actively contributes to our society and has the capacity through health and reduced pollution to save literally thousands of lives. And we know that despite, let's face it, what are often less than attractive conditions, at rush hours now in central London, 24% of journeys are made by bike. A survey conducted by British Cycling last year showed that 60% of people who don't ride a bike regularly said they would like to do so if they felt safer. 60%. That's some latent demand, isn't it? So how much is genuinely being done to make cycling the most attractive option, the easiest option? Well, dare I even say, use the word prioritised to make it the thing that we want to do. Well, I don't know the specific challenges that your boroughs face. I do know that in my area, I come up against an awful lot of what I've come to term as positive indifference. We have some fantastic noises and some really positive speeches backed up with minimal resource and energy that's mostly directed at finding very good rationales as why we can't change. I also know that having been presented with all of this data, these overwhelming, irrefutable facts and evidence, the government stance. David Cameron said on the 12th of August last year, cycling will be at the heart of all our future transport plans. And the government's response to the Get Britain Cycling report: we aim to make Britain a cycling nation to rival any of our European neighbours. MPs in the House, when the paper was presented, the Get Britain Cycling report, voted unanimously to adopt it. Fantastic, really exciting stuff. And the national strategy to achieve these laudable ambitions, a pledge of our annual transport budget, a small proportion, a fraction of it. No. A clearly defined targets then, so that we know that we're on the right track. No. Measures to monitor our progress towards that? No. I'm somewhat embarrassed to say that despite so much evidence screaming cycling is a logical choice, and instead of it being treated as a solution to so many of the problems that we face, despite that massive latent demand, it's instead dealt with as you would a worthy charity. You give chunks of cash, sometimes very generously, as and when you can afford it. Now, the government has passed the book and said they believe it should be addressed at a local level. Well, that's you, the people in this room. You've got leadership that says, let's do it. You've got long-term, committed funding available to you, more, I would hazard a guess, than the rest of the country put together. You've sackfuls of data saying that the way to travel is killing us. Change it and everybody benefits, regardless of whether you're a cyclist. And you have examples of what success can look like. You're probably sick to death of hearing about the Dutch, but I'm afraid it does bear repeating that in the 70s, they faced exactly the same problem as they were heading towards a car-centric society, and they made a conscious choice to stop. They changed, they prioritised, legislated, and encouraged cycling. All their infrastructure was designed to make this their preferred means of transport. Now, obesity rates in their children are half that they are in the UK. They spend 30% less time sitting in traffic, and that's because 30% more journeys are made by bike. 50% of school children ride to school. 50% of kids ride to school. I'd like to feel able to let my kids ride to school. They are, in effect, our commuters of tomorrow. It's no surprise, I think, that the Netherlands appeared in the top 4 of the UN's new Global Happiness Report. But that's just the Dutch, isn't it? Well, it's in their genes. Couldn't happen in Britain. Well, how about New York? A more car-centric environment I can't possibly imagine. And that was another conscious decision, this time by Mayor Bloomberg back in 2007, to make cycling a viable and attractive option. And a smart team who helped all their local authorities deal with their fears and concerns. Result, hundreds of miles of dedicated cycle route, a 250% increase in cycling usage, and a 73% drop in accidents. No coincidence. From a business perspective, in Manhattan, after the construction of a protected cycle lane on 9th Avenue, local businesses saw a 49% increase in retail sales. And that's in comparison to the local businesses throughout the Manhattan area that saw only a 3% rise in retail sales. New York is becoming a more livable city because they had leadership and commitment to change. What would your borough look like if half the journeys were by bike? Would that be somewhere that you would rather live and socialise, where you would like to bring up your kids? More interestingly, what will your borough look like in 10 years' time if we don't change? Well, for this revolution to happen, the people in this room have to make bold and courageous decisions. And I can tell you that infrastructure that tries to accommodate cycling without impacting motor vehicles, remember the mode of transport that we logically want to see less of, infrastructure with a design philosophy behind it of let's keep the cyclists safe by moving them out of the way of the car will fail, I guarantee you. The hardy 2%, they will continue to not use that infrastructure, that type of infrastructure, go on the roads in their helmets and high-vis and body armour and get on with it. That 60%, that latent demand that we mentioned, well, they're the ones that won't get on a bike and they'll stay in the car. If it was in my gift, I would actually compel Andrew and his team not to give any money to schemes that keep the status quo, that prioritise cycling only in the space where others that don't want to go. It would be more cost-effective to just give the money directly to the NHS. And I would like to point out, actually, that I do 25,000 miles a year in a car. My family has 2 cars. I'm not a fanatic. I'm not even pro-cycling. I'm pro-logic, pro-common sense. I'm aware how melodramatic this is going to sound, but it's the truth when I say the people in this room have the power to change the entire country, or not. Because right now, everybody is watching London, what you do. They need examples to give them the courage to actually change. And if you can change the way that we travel in London, you will change the way we travel in the UK. You have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change this country for the better for all of us and our children. And it's why I'm here, hundreds of miles from where I live, because you can change the way I travel, the way we travel, where I live. If you're bold and make meaningful changes, build infrastructure that inconveniences some in order to prioritise and encourage the forms of transport that benefit all of our society, not just cyclists, then you will have changed the whole country for the better, making it a place that I want to live and I want my kids to live in. So remember that muddy path, the path of least resistance. Take the bold decisions, make those bold choices, and make cycling the easiest option for the man on the street, and you'll look back and be proud of the decisions that you made. Thank you.
Chris, thank you very much. And now that the Mayor, Jules Pipe, and Chris have to leave to do some media.
Okay. As you say. Well, we've got to do some media. Come on.